monitor the text.
Oh,
We're going to
no.
monitor the text thread. We'll see if people feel good or don't feel good about talking about the issues of our day.
Or if they want to talk about Jason Kelsey all weekend.
Yeah, I mean, you can waste your life away talking about Stanley mugs that, by the way, have lead in them, but we'll talk about that later. Brian Hauswirth,
So
how
do
you
pencils.
doing? You doing good?
I'm doing fine.
That's good. It'd be good if I turned your mic on.
Yeah, the Senate has certainly been getting a lot of attention. To say the least. There's some national coverage of Senator Schroer's tweet about duels.
Yeah, Schroer's filed a resolution, right? That if a person is offended,
yeah,
the offending person shall be able to be challenged to a duel.
And listen, it's bad when the classic rock guys in the building come up to you. Oh my gosh, have you heard about this state senator that wants duels to come back? I'm like, oh no.
It made national news.
It did, but keep in mind one thing. I know him very well, and he is, Randy, you know him well too. I think he's being very facetious here.
Of course he is.
He likes to troll progressives, there's no doubt, but he also likes to troll he's trolling Caleb Rowden. I mean, clearly. But, boy, he trolls progressives all day long. He really goes, he gets into it with Jess Piper all the time on his Twitter page. So I don't think he's being serious about that. Nonetheless, it is news, but it is interesting. But it's been a long week, more fog, and hopefully people will be safe on the had a guy tailgating me in the fog this morning. Don't do that, people.
How
Please.
fast were you driving, Brian?
I was going slower because it was hard to see, So, but no, he was driving very, very, very fast, and I bet he was going probably 80.
Wow.
Oh
yeah,
my
in
gosh.
the fog.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, down 63.
Woo.
That's not good.
Just get out of the way or something like that. Okay, Victor says, politics is why I listen. Check. John says, just no Taylor Swift. That is not feel good.
Okay, then we'll focus on Jason Kelsey.
Oh, okay, we'll
Close
see.
enough, right?
Something that is feel good. Brian, is it Eagle Days this weekend?
It is. Had a story about that. It's in my newscast, and I did a voicer for John for KWS. It's in your stack there, Randy.
Eagle Days.
2,000 people are expected. It is going to be packed at the Runge Nature Center. It's a free event. I know people are really tight right now with the money. But 10 to 3 tomorrow, they are bringing the bald eagles up from Springfield's Dickerson Park Zoo.
Usually it's one bald eagle and one golden eagle, but yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're
We had
bringing
them in
them
the control room with us one day, and since it's the breakfast hour, I won't elaborate, but boy, oh boy, the phrase "like a fire hose."
Yeah, I
comes to mind.
understand.
Oh, man.
So wait a minute, they import these birds?
Yeah, they come in. Stephanie's right.
Not
They bring them in
authentic
from,
eagle watching?
Well, you'll be able now if you want to go to the Marion Access tomorrow outside up Highway 179. Yes, you can do that. But the ones inside are going, and there'll be some in the outside in the ponds as well that are just natural bald eagles
good.
that are out there at Runge.
But
10 to 3 tomorrow.
And the two eagles they bring up from Springfield, I think they're getting rather old, but they have a story of why they are at the zoo. So I won't ruin it because what they do is they do a live show and get the eagles out. I think it's on the hour, like every hour. And so it's just packed. I went and I like to take the kids. The kids love it.
That's cool.
And you get to see them up close. It's neat.
They have learning stations. Stephanie's right. It's from 10 to 3 tomorrow. You'll need to probably park if the Runge doesn't have enough parking, although it's open, but probably most of you are going to need to park at the conservation headquarters on Truman. They'll have shuttles running from about 9:30 to 3:30. 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 a.m., noon, 1, 2. Maddie S. says they'll be in the Runge Theater. She's their spokesperson at the department. Learning stations, it's all free, and it's something Sarah Parker-Pauley, our outgoing director, it's very important to her to do this. And they will have the trails open as well. But you're right, it's a great opportunity for people to go to the event. And if you haven't seen Runge, it's just gorgeous. Wonderful facility. They do a great job.
So it's Runge, not Rungy.
Runge. It's pronounced Runge.
Because I had a teacher once, and she pronounced it Rungy.
Right.
But
and
so but this is Runge.
It's Runge for sure. Yeah, Runge Nature Center.
Where is Runge Nature
179. Center? It would be where Highway 50 is and connects with 179 in Jefferson City on your way to the mall. If you're heading out to California, it's going to be off to your right, maybe half a mile. It'll be off to the left.
Is this
a couple miles from the radio station?
Yeah.
Is this a conservation department deal?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Missouri,
cool.
Missouri
Got some really neat hiking trails back in there,
neat.
too.
You know,
They
we're
really
blessed to have a pair of nesting bald eagles on our property. They've been there for about, 5-6 years now. And they love to harass me when I'm out coming, especially in turkey season, because they're nesting then with new, either eggs or offspring. And I'll be walking to or from whatever turkey blind, and man, they circle around, just raising heck with you. It's just funny to watch. And first it's her, then it's him. And then we see young ones. The young ones sort of look ugly. They're brown, and they look. There's no,
They're called eaglets.
Yeah, the young ones, and they sit on the perch with their papa or their mama. It's really fun to watch. They're majestic birds. Yeah. Majestic birds.
To
vultures, but majestic birds.
Exactly. When I can't remember, it wasn't a scandal. I'm talking about interest and stuff on various people, because people are into politics. There's no doubt. Something was going on at the Capitol. It wasn't Greitens' impeachment, but the Department of Conservation brought in snowy owls to Jefferson City, and Jason Taylor, my colleague at the Missouri Net, and I did a couple of stories on that. They had more hits on the Missouri Net website, those stories about the snowy owls, for whatever reason, than any of the politics did. It's interesting. People, they get into politics. But this eagle thing tomorrow, I've got pictures. I guarantee you, it will be the most read story on our website all weekend.
100%. I worked really hard on my social media, and I thought I was doing really good. The best viewed reel on my entire Instagram is an Instagram of the Eagles with the national anthem in the background from Eagle Days.
That's awesome.
People love the birds.
That's awesome.
That's great. Coming up on the show today, yesterday I had seen a posting that said the Boone County Committee. It was a letter and underneath it there wasn't a handwritten signature, but it said Central Committee, and it was basically asking for the resignation of Caleb Rowden and Cindy O'Loughlin. And Tony Lupo said, ain't so. So he's going to straighten that out for us. He'll straighten that out for us at 7:10.
It was leaked.
It was leaked. Apparently it was leaked. And then Tim Kinnin and his wife Katrina are going to join us about the Red Slipper Warrior Project. A very noble cause for women and girls suffering from cancer. That's coming up, I guess, in February. They'll be doing something then. That's at 7:35. I think they'll be in studio. And there's a youth center that Tanya, Heath, and Julian have. A fellow named Julian. I forget his last name. What's his name? Jackman. Hugh Jackman, Julian Jackman. Now I'll remember it. Okay. And they last week was a grand opening for youth center. So they'll be in. They'll be calling in later on, about 8:10.
I'm working on a story on that right now about the Red Warrior Project. By the way, I did several stories. MU Healthcare is now involved. The First Lady came up to announce that. But in terms of the youth center, I'm working on several features for next week for both stations. It's taken me a little bit of time because I'm really put a good story together. I toured that place when they opened it up. What they're basically doing is these are children and young people that they don't have anywhere safe to go. And they have computer centers, they have game rooms and stuff. But the biggest thing that Julian Jackman and Tanya Heath and there's another gentleman too, Lonnie Lockhart Bay, that they have talked about is the kids got to get their schoolwork done first. But it is, and they're teaching them plumbing skills. It is extremely impressive. They want to ideally do this as well on the east side by Battle and the north side. But it is, I was shocked at how beautiful this facility is. They basically got first class everything, and they're trying to tell these young people, you are worthy of first class. It's very powerful. And
it sounds like they're really encouraging not just sort of babysitting, but encouraging achievement, right?
Absolutely.
And a lot of these kids that are from disadvantaged environments, they haven't seen achievement. They've seen squalor. They've seen poverty. They haven't had a chance to really experience the exhilaration that accompanies achievement. No matter what it is, you're achieving, and that's good to see.
And they also they're afraid of where some of them live in dangerous areas, and they're going to have buses to take them home. I mean, it is extremely impressive. Lonnie talks to me in detail for the story I'll have next week about he spent 26 years in prison. He is trying to tell these young people that's not the way to go. It's just very powerful. But I'm glad they're going to be on, and we'll be able to talk about it.
Should be fun. That'll be at 8:10. And, of course, all morning we invite you to weigh in on your feel-good stuff. For me, and for some of you, that may be really unpacking the politics and watching the mud wrestling going on. For others, it may be the weird but true stories. I have a few of those, too. And later on, we're going to do a little show and tell. That may be we'll see if you like that feature or not. You'll have to watch it on Facebook or on YouTube. And John, you'll have to think about what you're going to bring for show and tell. We'll have to figure out how to work that one out.
I'm way ahead of you. Lucky you.
Okay. When we come back, we're going to talk about what's going on in D.C. I guess we're going to talk a little, politics and other. I'm wondering. I want to hear. I'm really excited about this standoff that is potentially developing down at the border. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I can't. I did hear the word beer in there, and it helped that he was standing in front of beer stuff. Otherwise, I don't know that I would have caught that word. But I mean, people are pointing out it's worse than it ever has been, and the speculation rolling around about, are they really going to put this guy up?
The mumbler. And did you see as he walked away from the podium, he listened to a beer barrel. He cuddles up to a beer barrel and he's listening, and then he just sort of smiles and walks off into the
cut him some slack. There was beer involved, you know.
Maybe that could have been it. That would be a better explanation than the one that I think is the actual truth. So that is going on. Meanwhile, we heard, and we're going to hear more about a leaked memo out of the Boone County Republicans yesterday. But there was also a leak out of the Republican Party, the RNC, yesterday. Apparently, there's a draft resolution ahead of next week's RNC meeting that said, hey, let's just name Trump the presumptive nominee. Ronna McDaniel has come out and said, look, this didn't come from the RNC. Any member can come forward with a draft resolution, and that doesn't mean, that it's an official RNC thing. Trump said, look, I'm going to win it the old-fashioned way. We don't need to, do these things. So lots of leaking going on here locally.
Let's call it political incontinence.
All right. Well, and then we're expected, the House and the Senate, I think, are back in early next week, and we are expected more fireworks on the border, not only on the funding, which we'll get to, but on impeaching Mayorkas. And if you recall, our Attorney General went up to D.C. to testify. That seems to be a pretty high priority. It's a disaster what's happening. And then we're hearing about folks sleeping in airports. Being imported and just being overrun. And so I feel like that's going to be front and center early next week. And then also, the funding issue is still hanging out there. Apparently, McConnell, behind closed doors yesterday, I believe, floated, maybe we bust up the border funding in Ukraine and do them separately, which personally I would like.
What a novel idea.
But it doesn't look like it's going to go. It looks like they're going to not let that happen.
That sounds probably a macrocosm of what's going on the floor of the Senate in Jefferson City, right? People want one thing and they want another thing, but they want theirs first, and I'm not going to do mine unless you do yours second, and I'm not going to get out of the way. I think there's a lot of the same kind of maneuvering, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Yeah, it's always been a trade-off.
Yeah.
But I think
that's legislating.
But you also have to you have to trust that when you give, that the other person is going to reciprocate. And I think the trust level has broken down such that we are going to continue to have problems even after yesterday. But yeah, how this funding goes down, and it's an election year, right? So, I think when people learn how their elected officials or hopeful elected officials vote on Ukraine funding and border funding, I think those two issues matter for a lot of people.
So regarding the airports, Helene flew out a couple weeks ago and flew back in a week later, now a week ago, to Lambert. Didn't see massive amounts of homeless. Have you seen them in the various airports you've been in? Vegas, other places?
I didn't see people sleeping in the airport. I did see a whole host of people show up with the envelopes and nothing else that looked like they were being imported from somewhere else.
Yeah, and I haven't heard reports from the Kansas City airport. Have you? John,
No.
Have you heard? I haven't heard.
I have not.
No. So have you heard that down in, I guess it was Miami, they're up in arms because, and it's probably everywhere, these people are not being asked to give photo IDs, and they're not having their photos taken. It's like, are you okay with that? If you want it, we'll give. How come you and I have to go through that tyranny, but not the rest of these illegal aliens?
That's a very good question. To do TSA, just to take your shoes off, you have to get fingerprinted? I forget now what the TSA pre-check requirements are, but yeah, you would never be allowed to fly without a photo ID.
I don't get it.
And they wonder why the wire is up in Texas.
Yeah, right. And they wonder why Donald Trump is popular among millions and tens of millions and over 100 million Americans. Well, not 100 million, 80 million Americans.
Yeah,
because it's this dual system of justice.
And speaking of Texas, Missouri
attire on today.
I know. I found a vintage store
Is
in
that
Las
fleece?
Vegas.
No, it's like a sweatshirt.
But it's like an old school
Yeah.
Gap Americana
Isn't that cool?
sweatshirt. I thought it would be fun.
Look at that. You can see that on the Facebook and YouTube feeds.
You remembered your red this week.
I have my red tie. What are you laughing about? I like that. That was a dismissive.
It was.
Wasn't that dismissive, John?
It still cracks me up. I'm not used to having a host who insists on wearing a button-down shirt and tie. So
You're moving up in the world.
Well, I have to go to the office. Last night I had a gentleman call. He needs to be seen in the office today. I didn't have an appointment because I have to run to the dentist, an endodontist today in Wentzville. No one in Columbia could see me before mid-February.
Well, it's just, I know last week Stephanie sent you links to some, men's shirts that were red that, were options to purchase,
Look.
and they weren't fancy enough.
Well, look, it's not fancy. I'm not buying any more clothing. I have clothing from the 80s that still works.
Man.
Why should I buy new clothing? There are better things to spend money on. There's charities. There's guy stuff. I can always use another wrench. Can't you always use another wrench, John Marsh?
Always.
Yeah. And who doesn't need another adjustable crescent wrench? I mean, you always need something like that.
Nobody needs one.
Okay, so we've had requests for the Doctor's In segment. I thought I would maybe not do a formal Doctor's In now, but, this is the respiratory virus season. You have influenza, COVID is still around, RSV, and remember when the COVID, at first everyone thought it was just droplets, and then, well, maybe it can be aerosolized in particles that float around in spaces for hours, or at least half an hour or 45 minutes afterwards. So that raised a lot of questions about, and it is, of course, respiratory viruses do, affect the bowels. And so,
Wait.
And so things came up.
Really?
Yes. And things came, because you get virus all over. And 80% of your immune system is in 60 to 80% is in your intestine, the wall of your intestine.
I guess when I hear respiratory virus, though, I don't necessarily think of...
You can get it through, you get respiratory viruses through the oral fecal route all the time. Okay, at any rate, that's what it's called. Okay, so at any rate, did you know that when you flush a toilet, especially a commercial toilet, it's not good because there's a plume of droplets that end up meters away.
Uh-huh.
I've also heard you shouldn't just have your toothbrush out in the open in your bathroom.
Well, yeah. And so I saw this story that said there's this latest story out of the Journal of Infection Control. And they did a study looking at should you flush with the lid down or the lid up? Does it make a difference? Now, what would most common sense tell you? Lid down, right?
Yeah, probably no difference at all.
It turns out
most commercial toilets don't really have a lid.
No, they don't. No.
And men don't know how to put the toilet seat down anyway.
Yes, they do. I do all the time. Some men do it before they pee, though. That's the problem. But in Germany they sit down when they pee. Men.
I can support that because
They do.
A lot of guys don't know how to, aim properly.
Yeah.
And then the bathroom gets nasty.
When we visited Germany years ago when my son was studying there, I couldn't believe it. I mean,
there's no urinals.
As I was leaving the check-in area where the guy said, "Show me the papers." The guy sat there, "Show me the papers." I said, "Hi, how you doing?" "Show me the papers." I gave him the papers. I walked out, and I couldn't. No urinals in the. And what's going on? Sean said they sit down there. The men's bathroom was immaculately clean. It's beautiful.
That is one thing about being a woman that I will say I feel like we get a slight win in our column.
Yeah.
Is that we don't have to deal with urinals and we get the privacy of a nice stall.
Yeah.
There's nobody standing right next to you while you're trying to pee.
Well, the microbiologist and lead researcher said a lot of people said all you have to do is close the lid and the problem's solved. So you can think about this at your home toilet too. All that air when you flush goes somewhere and it carries the viruses in the toilet bowl out of it. I went and did a little further research, and it turns out that these commercial high volume, high pressure, swirling turbulence flushes, those really send up a plume, baby. Oh, man.
How about an airline bathroom?
Oh, wow. I'm telling you.
As long as you don't get stuck.
Yeah, that guy was living in the plume for 2 hours?
Yeah.
What?
So, of course, their advice is obviously make sure that you wash your hands. The plume, the droplets, there's the aerosolized particles and then there's the droplets. So I guess ideally you would, before you flush, you would take a big breath of air. Don't breathe. Don't breathe.
Open the door.
Right, open the door. Wash your hands quickly. Can you hold your breath for 20 seconds? Wash your hands for 20 seconds. You should wash it for about the time it says to take.
Flush the handle with your foot and dive out of the bathroom. There you go,
and dive out. And he also said, this was a laugher. At the end, they gave that recommendation. To keep your stuff and yourself clean, the experts advise against using products like your toothbrush and cosmetics. And don't use your phone in the bathroom. Yeah, right.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, can you imagine how dirty people's phones are?
Oh,
man. That I think about that, and I've kind of heard the keep your stuff away from the toilet. The other thing that I don't get, because then you go wash your hands, the thing that I refuse to use is the blower. The hand dryer.
The what?
Whatever.
You mean the Dyson thing, the blade?
Yeah.
The blade.
And all those nasty particles that are on your hand just, shoot it all over the bathroom.
But you just washed your hands. So you got rid of the dirty particles.
No, I don't think so. I think, it just grosses me out.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I don't like reaching around, and sometimes you have to reach in because the towel hasn't dropped down, and how many other dirty hands have, I don't know. I like the blade.
The science
Remember
on
the big
air
towel?
Dryer.
Remember the big cloth towel dispenser that you pulled down? It was like,
the rotating towel that everyone else used an hour ago. Now, but I look at it another way. Look, you're exposed to germs all the time. And we know that kids that grow up in sterile urban environments have a higher rate of allergies. I would maintain, I don't know that the study's been done, it'd be hard to do, but I just don't think they have as strong an immune system because they're not exposed to little things like, barnyard animals and dirt and, what farm kids are, And so I think micro doses, these are small doses. Remember, infection, and whether you get a disease is a product of the dose of the infection, what type of virus, and how your immune system handles it, right? You get exposed to stuff all the time that, get out of here. It's just a flesh wound, says your immune system. And so maybe getting micro doses of the person right before you and the person before them's, aerosolized particles, that might not be a bad idea. Think about it it
builds up your immunity.
This is a feel-good Friday. We're supposed to share the love. This is another way of doing that.
Yeah, my poor, when you can tell little kids are getting sick because they get real tired. Last night, one of mine, my youngest, fell asleep real early.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, let's get out the thermometer. But then I thought, this is the first time she's gone to school 2 days in a row since I think the start of the year. And when they start back school, they get really tired. So I'm like, is she getting sick or is it just that we're going to school again? I can't really tell.
And you didn't want to have to deal with the reality that maybe she was sick, right?
I don't think she is. Hopefully not.
All right. And
but it is going around right now.
And Helene found a story. For some people, no matter how much sleep they get, they still feel tired and low energy. And it turns out that a lot of people in the U.S., 44% of the more than 1,000 adults that were surveyed in a National Sleep Foundation study just a couple years ago said they felt sleepy between 2 and 4 days every week. A YouGov poll just a couple of years ago found that 1 in 8 UK adults were tired all the time. It's one of the most common complaints I see in the office.
Well, I haven't seen the sun in 3 weeks, and I think that is making me feel sad and tired.
I was going to ask you, when? Well, Tony Lupo is going to be on at 7:10, and so along with straightening out whether or not there was a draft or whether it was a real deal or whether it was a hoax deal by some progressive, a question from the call for resignation of Rowden and Cindy O'Loughlin. He's going to talk about that. But I want to ask him about the comparison between the polar vortex of a couple of weeks ago into late last week compared to 21, and also about this as well.
What about the fog? Because I saw an article that said, it's the densest fog in the most places this week, ever. And I think it was probably the liberal media saying, climate change is making our whole world foggy. But, it does seem abnormally foggy for, a lengthy period of time.
What's been weird to me is I'm used to seeing fog in the mornings, especially on the Missouri River Bridge.
Yes.
That's nothing new, but it's been foggy on my way home from work, which is different. To me, that's unusual. Am I alone in that, I guess?
Yeah.
No, okay.
Yeah, it's foggy in the evening. It's foggy all day long.
It's foggy, yeah, but that's because the air is different. There is sunlight above the fog heating that air.
Yeah.
And so when it's superheated, I think it probably enough to sort of heat the evaporation away, if you will. But if it's in that transition time, I don't know. We have to ask Tony. I don't know. But this
warm, moist air blows in from the south, and if there's snow or cool moisture on the ground, there you go, fog.
Uh-oh. We're getting texts at 874-9390.
About what?
Ew.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay.
Sonia's asking if we're suggesting that folks wear a mask in the bathroom.
Well, I thought about this. So remember when, during the COVID, if you went to a theater or you went to a Broadway play at the Fox or or here at the Missouri Theater or whatever, okay, they had you wear a mask. That all goes away because you go into the bathroom. Everyone took their mask off in the bathroom. You're flushing. You're getting everyone's germs anyway. That's where the transmission was occurring, right? What do you think? No?
Sounds good.
I mean, I'm not in support of wearing a mask anytime, but
masks do have some utility. It's not all or nothing. They are helpful in reducing the spread. They don't eliminate it, but they reduce the spread. Trust me. We've been wearing masks forever with influenza. I mean, when you go into a hospital when it's influenza season because it helps reduce. It's not the panacea. That was the problem with the whole COVID deal. It was all this all or nothing messaging from the virus, from the government.
It just didn't make reasonable sense. I mean, I think maybe I had different mask experiences than you, but I definitely like one place I know you had to wear a mask was if you went to get a massage. Or if you went to get a wax, and so there were, so I thought that was really weird because you could be mostly in the nude and be forced to wear a mask. And I'm like, how is this helping anybody?
Well, you can't mask everything.
Yes.
Yeah, what were you masking?
I also I visited a European pool, and you did not have to be fully clad, but you had to wear your mask.
Yeah,
and so you're thinking, what are we preventing here?
Well, but your body parts don't spread virus.
Yeah, but it
it depends on what kind of virus we're talking about.
I know, yeah.
It just seems very...
See me at the office later. We can do some testing.
I think just like to the basic person, the rules seemed completely ridiculous.
Yeah, but so do a lot of the rules that they promulgate on us, and they're done with good reason.
And a lot of people in healthcare, doctor, at the height of that, saw the reasoning behind it, at least in healthcare facilities,
right? Because
it's kind of de rigueur.
You're right, and the problem was that, for instance, we do know that an N95 mask, properly fitted, absolutely does reduce your risk of incoming virus, right? No doubt about it, and maybe to some extent outgoing, but. The problem is those people were wearing their mask over and over and over again with their own. So you had this complication of, what did it do to overall respiratory health and everything? Net. I don't think it was handled very well.
I think you need to answer Charles's question.
So
we got asked, are we suggesting people wear a mask in the bathroom? But I think we can make a suggestion for Charles.
Charles, when we come back, we'll answer your question. And that will be a segue into our show and tell segment. I brought something. if the Boone County Central Committee has decided whether they're going to take a stand on the Senate controversy with the Freedom Caucus versus the rest, and something on the weather too. I mean, when is this weather pattern going to straighten out and get Stephanie a little light so she's happy?
First of the week.
It's been a long time since we've seen the sun. Yeah, is it Monday, John, that we're expecting to see the sun?
Yeah, first few days of next week, high 50 plus and at least partial sunshine.
Oh, great. Monday, work week starts and the sun comes out.
Of course.
Beautiful. Good. Loving it.
Rain for Saturday while you're off.
Now, I saw a story. Oh, and later on, we're going to talk about a wonderful new youth center. Tanya Heath and Julian Jackman, right? Julian Jackman. JJ will be with us at 8:10. And at 7:35, the Red Warrior Slipper Project, right? Red Slipper Warrior Project going to be. That's a big event that will be helping women suffering and battling cancer and girls too, because there are certain cancers that affect young women as well. So they'll be in at 7:35. I think they're going to be in studio with us. Now, you like to brag about your Stanley Cup, don't you?
Not as much as you like to think I do, but yeah.
And did you know that Stanley Cup, apparently Stanley products contains, quote, some lead, close quote.
Yeah,
the company says, as insulated stool. Now, you see, you've got your Stanley tumbler.
Yeah.
And I've already told you, so you spend what, 75?
No, I did not spend that much on it.
Well, how much does a Stanley Cup cost?
I spent $45 on mine.
Oh, 45.
Because that's so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, guess what?
What?
Remember, look what I brought here on Show and Tell. Look at this.
It's vintage.
The original, John, can you see this? Look at this.
That's pretty cool.
The original Aladdin's Stanley thermos. I don't know how old this is. It has to be 30 years old.
Now listen, if one of our cups has lead in it, I'm going to guess it's yours.
and this has been in hiding for years, and I smelled it to make sure it didn't smell moldy.
That looks
crystal
vaguely
clean.
Familiar. I'm pretty sure my dad has that same thing.
There you go. Is that not a beauty? Stanley Cup, and I'm reading on the end of it here. It says preheat by filling bottle with hot water before using with hot liquids. There you go.
And doesn't have all the plastic that the current Stanleys have.
No, this is the only plastic is the plug.
Yeah.
It's got the plug. But you see, we people, the wise among us, everything's self-contained. You don't need a straw. You just got the cup right on top. You could put soup in here. Put soup. Pour it in your cup.
I don't need a straw if I don't want it.
Look at that. Soup. This is a multi-purpose Stanley thermos.
And by the way, the lead that they're saying it contains is trapped inside the layers of the cup, right?
Oh, that's what they say.
It's not like it's touching your drink or your hand.
Well, there you go. Stanley I think we're all having a little heartburn about what's going on in the Missouri Senate, hoping, praying that the two now warring factions between the Freedom Caucus and leadership and those who are allied with them, the rest of the conference, can get together, have a kumbaya, get some things done.
Well, they referred so what we heard from Caleb earlier this week was, or Senator Rowden, excuse me. What we heard from him earlier this week was that, he would, as long as they push through the gubernatorial appointments slate, then he would refer all the bills. And what happened yesterday was they didn't take any action on the gubernatorial appointments. He went ahead and referred all the bills in a show of good faith. So whether or not they will let business be done, but someone pointed out the Senate's essentially been in for 4 weeks, and there's yet to be a substantive issue debated on the floor.
A point of order. When Cindy O'Loughlin was on with us, she said that bills had been referred. A dozen IP reform bills, 20-something other kind of bills, education bills. So are bills referred or are they not referred?
No, they are. So they had already referred some to committee, but all the remaining...
The whole deal?
Yeah, I think he...
The whole slate?
I'm pretty sure he referred the rest of them yesterday.
Then I've been calling for one of the sides to blink. Because when one side blinks, it obligates the other side to blink. And then the other side has to blink back. And before you know it, it's a beautiful thing. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to take that as a Caleb Rowden blink and a call for the Freedom Caucus from me. I'm not speaking for anyone else here. To now come and let's get together. Let's get something done.
I wouldn't say Caleb Rowden blinked.
Well, he gave in without them doing what he wanted.
The other side was saying, "Oh, we're victorious." I don't think the Freedom Caucus was victorious. I think he's calling their bluff.
There's nothing wrong with blinking. That's okay to blink.
I would say he's calling their bluff.
Okay, well that's a combative way of putting it. I call it a conciliatory gesture.
And also, let's point out too, Stephanie is right, but Senator Eigel's right too. And here's where it gets complicated.
Did you say Senator Eigel's right?
He is. Because he wants certain bills. He wants certain bills referred that weren't referred at the time he was talking. He's saying they weren't referred. Rowden did refer. It's extremely complicated, and not every bills
were referred, not the ones he wanted referred.
That's just it. But he would not. He basically. This is really what upset Senator Rowden is Eigel in Hoskins, in Bratton, in the Freedom Caucus. They had controlled 15 and a half hours of the 16, but he wanted his bills, heard first. So, and then one of Eigel's big issues too, he said Cindy O'Loughlin called him names on this show. That's what she now and
well, but who they've been throwing around the rhino term for years, right? So who's calling who names? The name calling, whatever. Okay, Tony Lupo joins us now. Tony, atmospheric scientist extraordinaire, purveyor of all things sometimes good on the weather front, but always truth, justice, and the American way. Welcome to the Wake Up Mid-Missouri program.
Well, thank you, Randy. I'm glad to be on with you all this morning. Seems like we're always talking about stormy weather of some sort.
Yeah. Okay, so I saw this. It was in letter form. It was not a statement with a imprimatur of the Boone County Central Committee, Boone County Republican Central Committee. But I saw this. It looked like a letter to the senators, respectfully submitted at the end, Boone County Republican Central Committee, to Senators O'Loughlin and Rowden, essentially saying we've tried to support you, and I'm summarizing here, and now we're asking for you to resign immediately and new effective leadership be installed in the Missouri Senate. I went out there because I didn't go to journalism school, and I said it yesterday that had been put out there, and
it was on Twitter.
It was on Twitter. Yeah, but it wasn't put out on the Central Committee Twitter side, and that was my bad. Tony, can you help unpack this and unravel the mystery?
Oh, absolutely. Our regular meeting is Tuesdays, the third Tuesday of the month, and that was this last Tuesday. And there was a lot of angst among our committee about what's happening in Jeff City. I mean, many people who are watching this are very concerned, upset, and just disgusted, quite frankly. And we wanted to write a letter to Caleb and keep it between the committee and Caleb. And we had a member step forward and volunteer to write a first draft, which he did. And the first draft, for some reason, got leaked. I I think I know how that happened, but it was not intended. And, that was just a first draft. It was sent to a handful of us for comment around midday Wednesday. So but once it got out in the Twitter sphere or whatever you call it, it got around with the speed of light, it seems like. And unfortunately, it got out there way before we wanted it to. This was something that would have went through a few revisions and a vote. So
I guess that's what I want to confirm. You said first draft. Sometimes that makes my mind go to, well, there was a general consensus and now we just need to codify it. But that's different from a proposed letter by one individual. Which is more accurate?
It was a first draft written by one of our members, and that's where it stood, and it had not gotten any feedback from the committee when it was out. So right now it was just one person's draft, and no one had had a chance to comment on it or vote on it, and that's what the problem is. This is not where it would have been for its final version, and it's not something that all of the Central Committee had agreed on.
Okay. I think it's confusing, Tony, and I appreciate you joining us. It's confusing. Remember, people out there, when you see stuff on Twitter, Ronald Reagan used to say, trust but verify. And you could do that with I urge you to do it with everything. If you're talking about the weather, crashes, whatever. This, though, is a little confusing because this particular, draft or whatever was written by this gentleman. It did get retweeted by the Freedom Caucus. I'm positive I saw it, or somebody with the Freedom Caucus. So that's, I think, the question people are asking right now. You had mentioned, Tony, it was intended, or something was intended privately for Senator Rowden, but then this other guy wrote this. I'm curious, what was the private message that you intended, or the group intended, to send to Senator Rowden? It can't really be private right now. It's out there. So what were you intending to tell him so people know?
Well, the private message was, we just wanted him to show some leadership, and this was again Tuesday night. Show some leadership. Come back to us. Come back to the committee. Visit us every so often. That kind of thing. And I think somehow somebody shared this with someone they trusted, or they thought they trusted, outside the committee, and that's how it got around. And but I do as the chair of the committee take full responsibility, and certainly as a famous Missourian once said, the buck stops with me. I told our members that we would go ahead with this, but to keep it in-house, and that we would review it, and then it would only go to him afterwards. And somehow it got out. So I have to take full responsibility for that. And if anyone has questions, they should call me or email me.
So, Tony, can we assume that from everything you've said, that the consensus view of the Boone County Central Committee of the Republican Party is that this is not a no fault or a both fault, a divorce in making? This is rather, you have taken a side that the fault largely lies with Caleb Rowden and Cindy O'Loughlin.
Well, the Boone County Central Committee is a very diverse committee. There's a lot of viewpoints out there. Again, since this is a first draft, I don't know what the final draft would have looked like, but everybody on the committee does not blame Caleb Rowden. I can say that for sure. And again, this was the first draft, and so we were taking steps to find that consensus where people were.
Yeah.
But everybody is frustrated to some degree or another, and wherever that blame lies, the view on our committee, believe me, is across the spectrum. On that.
I'm curious, and I'd like everyone's input here. And Tony, you start. I've been talking inside and out to both sides of this matter, inside and out, with sources, the best sources I can get, people that work for folks involved, sometimes the folks involved themselves. One of the issues that seems to come up, the accusations from the Freedom Caucus members to the leadership, is that the leadership and their allies, because I've asked the question, why, if the Freedom Caucus has such great standing and great power and their views are so highly held, how come there's more senators not with them than with them? And what I hear is, well, that's because they love the perks. That is, the non-Freedom Caucus members love the, quote, perks of the lobbyists, and the lobbyists have gotten into their ear, and the lobbyists this and the lobbyists that. And then I heard a little bit about, and then I went and looked at campaign finance. And what I could find is that I'm seeing, some of the Freedom Caucus members, one of whom is very avid and just received, and a friend of mine, just received an award from the Missouri Advanced Practice Nurses Association, advancing bills for independence in nurse practitioners. And guess what? His wife's a nurse practitioner. So when people are throwing around the whole swamp creature and special interest this and special interest that, seems to me like there's plenty of those, plenty of that culpability to go around. What say you?
Absolutely. And, if I were going to talk, if I were going to send a message to Jefferson City and especially our caucus, I would tell them, get off the floor, go behind closed doors,
yes.
Share a few beers.
Please. Yes.
Get together, hash out your differences, and then come back with a united front.
And that's exactly what Representative Cherie Tilson-Reich actually urged on the air, Tony. She basically said on this show the other day, Representative Tilson-Reich, that Caleb Rowden and the Freedom Caucus need to go behind closed doors, get this thing settled. But Representative Tilson-Reich said on this show, after that, she said flat out that there are Republicans in Jefferson City, in the House and Senate, that don't talk like Republicans and don't vote like Republicans. She said that on this show.
And I've heard that there have been negotiations, and they think they have a deal, and then the deal breaks down.
That's right.
So anyway, John, you have a question, quick.
Well, quickly, I think, we heard so much from the leadership about all these senators with the Freedom Caucus are all, just trying to run for higher office. Well, Caleb Rowden's in the hunt, running for Secretary of State, so election year politics.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A lot of this seems personal, and again, there's no room for that on the Senate floor.
Okay.
And I think they need to hash this out behind closed doors.
What's going on with the fog?
Yeah. What's with the fog?
What's going on with? This is more to my liking.
Go
Yeah.
ahead. I can take it. That's good. What's going on?
Well, not only on Wake Up Mid-Missouri are we a multi-generational radio show, which that's a reference.
Boy, howdy.
We have the wise, and then we have the young and the restless. But go ahead.
Okay, that's a reference to the latest photo on the Wake Up Mid-Missouri Facebook page if you want to go check it out.
That's great.
But we're also here for women's rights, okay? Right, Stephanie?
Yes.
Yeah. And today's story comes from Japan, and they are working to bridge the gender gap between men and women in Japan, of all places. There is an ancient festival that takes place every February, and it goes back, centuries. And basically a bunch of dudes gather, and they're practically naked, okay? So thousands of almost naked dudes gather. They do a special ceremony that's supposed to drive away evil spirits for the year. I don't know why you would want to stand in a crowd of nearly naked dudes, but that's beside the point, I guess. But this year, they have allowed women to take part in this, quote, naked festival for the first time.
Oh, wow. Well, that's leveling the score.
It is.
Yeah.
So,
I am woman, hear me roar.
for this first year, they're only allowing about 40 women to participate. The tradition has been going back over 1,200 years. So, been going on a long time. They're doing 40 women this year. The media will be there, I guess. The women do have to be fully clothed. They can't be nearly naked.
What?
I know.
At least they're not riding bikes. What's that? There's another nude festival where they all ride bikes. I think
that's in the States, isn't it? Like New York, maybe?
I think so.
Yeah.
And that just seems dangerous.
Seems uncomfortable, is what it seems.
Uncomfortable.
Unless you've had your wax.
Oh,
There you go.
John, Stephanie, and I were having to educate Randy.
I don't know what
morning.
this wax is. I don't know. Wax to me is what the candles burn. I don't know.
In more ways than one, it's kind of south of the border.
Yeah.
Okay. Enough of disorder that's been going on like for the last 2 weeks. It's been ridiculous.
Well, Stephanie's currently trying to combat hers.
She has this light. She has this glow light on. Look at the glow. You can watch us on Facebook and YouTube. Look at the glow.
It's more than just her natural glow, right?
It is. She has a natural glow, and this just accentuates it. Red Slipper Warrior Project leader Tim Tinnin joins us now. How you doing, Tim? Thank you for being with us.
It's great to be here. Thanks.
Tell us about the genesis of the Red Slipper Warrior Project and what you guys do.
I lost my wife back in 2012 to cancer, and we recognized a lot of things that she really didn't have, and it was primarily emotional. We had great doctors and great medicine, but that emotional support really was lacking, and so we decided to try to do better, and we really address that emotional support, remind them that cancer doesn't define them, they define them. Embrace that warrior spirit. I was on the Missouri State Highway Patrol SWAT team for a number of years, and we kind of use that as the model. Mm-hmm. We're going in hot. This is a demon that's trying to kill you. That's cancer's job.
Yeah,
and our job is to go in hot and defeat that.
So we hear so much, and it's so palpably true that there is such a lack of mental health services just generally. I mean, and it seems like the demand is insatiable. Yeah. And on top of that, then you have people in critical situations. They get a bad diagnosis, and then going through the journey of treatment and recovery is just ungodly in some cases.
Right.
So what kind of tactics do you use to address the strategy of providing mental support?
Well, one of the things that Angie used to say, that was my wife. She used to say, I've lost my hair. I feel lousy. I look lousy. I feel like the only thing anybody ever sees is cancer, and we found that to be pretty universal. And we decided let's do something. Let's remind them that they're still beautiful. They're still the same person. And we came with this red slipper idea because she used to tell me, it didn't matter how I looked, how I felt, she was always love you. And she would get shoes when she felt lousy. And so we got the blingy red slippers as a reminder you're still beautiful, you're still the same person you were. And then, like I said, we go into that SWAT mentality, and we do some SWAT mental exercises basically to just make better fighters.
So talk to us about the evolution of the event. I mean, it's come a long way, and you've got the event coming up. I mean, talk about from year one to where you are today.
Yeah, we started with Angie Palooza down on the streets of Jefferson City. We started an outdoor concert. She and I love doing charity events. We love doing live music things. And when she passed away, I thought I can't just let that stop. And we started Angie Palooza as a big street party and became very, very popular. And then we kind of morphed it into the amphitheater. We do an amphitheater show in the summer. We've had Joe Nichols, and we've had Granger Smith and Phil Vassar, and we're working on a really big show now that I can't announce, but hopefully we can soon. And then we decided to do a big band show. So we put a big band orchestra together with 9 vocalists, very, very 5-star level. Think Michael Bublé, think 1950s Sinatra type of a vibe.
Yeah.
And it is, in a word, that is a sexy show.
You bet.
Just first class.
Yeah. These young pups, they don't know about that. Frank Who,
yeah.
Rat Pack is something you put in the corner to kill the mice, as far as they're concerned.
Yeah. Now it's a great show. We have a great turnout, and it's one of our big fundraisers for the year.
Yeah, the Sinatra is a huge name, and I love his music.
And I'm looking at the picture here on redslipperwarrior.com of a bunch of really dressed up dudes and gals. I mean, in elegant evening dresses, and it's red ties, and one guy has a black tie on. But I mean, it's really jazzed up.
We kicked him out.
Yeah, Hollywood Nights. It's called February 3rd, 5 to 10.
Right. Yep.
Tim, I know that I encourage people to look. Randy's looking at your website. I linked to it, 939theeagle.com, kws.com. But I did a couple of features within the last few weeks, as you heard on our newscasts, where I went and covered your event. And the First Lady herself, Teresa Parson, was there. We talked to her. MU Healthcare is now for the kids that are sick over there. The children are involved. But I want to point out something that stuck out to me. I've reported about the fraternity, a handful of fraternity members here in Columbia that were allegedly involved in the Danny Santulli terrible incident. Terrible. And some trials are coming up. That press conference you did was at a fraternity home. And what stuck out to me is some of those kids, I call them kids, they're college age, I shouldn't say that, but young people, they were in tears listening to your story. And what stuck out to me is there's so many good fraternity, and the sorority women were there too. They were in tears. And you saw that. You were taken aback, and you told me afterwards, you said, these young people are going places. You were so impressed by them. Talk
Exactly.
about that.
Yeah. We work with the Theta Chi's here on campus and the Kappa Kappa Gammas. I was a Theta Chi a million years ago, so I kind of had a connection to them, and they jumped on top of a fundraising event. And because of their work, we're able to take care of the girls here at Children's Oncology and at Children's here at MU. And just that is exactly right. These kids are going places. They are squared away in any group. You've got probably a couple thousand fraternity kids in at MU. You had a couple make a bad decision. That doesn't reflect on the rest of them. These kids are fantastic, and they were dedicated and full tilt, and they have made it very clear they want to help push this across the country. And we're making some efforts to do that. We've been in 26 states already. They want to make it bigger and help push that. That's not kid stuff. That's young adult that are focused and driven.
Tim Tinnin joins us. He's the founder of the Red Slipper Warrior Project, supporting women and young women, girls, as they battle cancer.
Tim, talk to us maybe back to the whole SWAT mentality thing. And so many of us know that you were one of Governor Greitens' bodyguards in your later days on the highway patrol. Talk to us about that whole leading from the front in the fight mentality.
We would get calls, as you can imagine, when the state SWAT team gets called, it's a bad day. There's people that have either been killed or there's a threat of them being killed, and it's hot. And we'd get a call and they'd say, hey, he's killed 2, he's got 2 hostages, and he said he's killing the first guy through the door. And 9 times out of 10, that was me. We had a team of very dedicated people, but you have got to have a mentality of winning, because that's a tough reality to know that you're going to a place that you could end up getting smoked. And it's so similar to that when that lady gets a diagnosis. I've got cancer. It's very similar. We're going in hot, and you got to have that mentality, that winning mentality, to really be effective if you're going to fight it.
So if you're interested in tickets, redslipperwarrior.com, right? Folks can log on there.
Yes, sir.
And if you can't, and maybe even if you can, you've got some merch too, right?
We've got merch. We've got opportunities to donate, opportunities to participate in what we do. And, and if you've got a lady in your life that has got cancer, that's what we do.
Hannah was wondering, she texted me here during the segment, I noticed you've got some 40-ounce handled tumblers.
Yeah.
Are those Stanley brand? Or
they are. I would defy you to tell the difference. They are not Stanley brand, but they are fantastic.
You know what this is?
Absolutely. I had one of those rolling around in my patrol car for a lot of years. Yeah.
So there's tumblers, trucker hat, power cord bracelet, and artisan bracelet collection. So that's great. Well, we hope you have a fabulous turnout. Look forward to the event on February 3rd. RedSlipperWarrior.com. Thank you, Tim Tinnin.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All righty. When we come back, John, do you have something that's more sensible? Because we've been wacky, wild, and just
6 a.m., August 12th, 1817, Thomas Hart Benton of Missouri and young Charles Lucas met on the island in the middle of the Mississippi near St. Louis. Benton first challenged Lucas to a duel after using a court case where he'd been insulted. Lucas questioned Benton's right on the basis he had failed to pay his property taxes and couldn't vote. Benton responded by replying he would not answer charges made by any puppy who may happen to run across his path, and the duel was on. From a distance of 30 feet, Benton hit Lucas in the throat, but was only grazed by Lucas's bullet in the knee. Lucas was satisfied, but Benton insisted on a second meeting, and they dueled again. Benton's anger refueled when the gossip claimed he was afraid to duel at 10 feet, but 10 feet it was. Off went the guns. Lucas missed. Benton's bullet hit Lucas in the chest. Lucas died. The dueling grounds, now known as Bloody Island, and I'm sure Tim Tinnin, off the record, would attest if you challenged Eric Greitens to a duel, he'd probably gone and got that minigun he'd used in the campaign ad. Come after you. That'd been the rest of that story for sure.
Hey, I feel a new Broadway musical coming on. We could call it, what would we call it? Instead of Hamilton.
Well, I was going to say, they already did Hamilton.
Yeah, we could call it, what would we call it? Rowden, Schroer, Eigel. And
Cluster.
I'd be happy to write the score and, and be involved in some of the performance. Who's going to write the script? Stephanie, will you do that? John and Stephanie, you guys want to collaborate on that?
There we go. Boy, yeah. I think the script has already been written. It's high drama by the lawmakers.
I tried to convince a while ago my Federalist Society friends. We have the transcripts from the 1945 State Constitutional Convention, and there is a lot of drama, and there's different characters, and if you actually sit down and read it, it's pretty good. Like, we should do a little reenactment, but no,
they didn't want to do it?
Just for me.
That is one of the nerdiest things I have ever heard Stephanie say. And she has said a lot of really nerdy things on this show.
Well, there's people that do Civil War reenactments, so that's not too far off.
Yeah, but it's not a bunch of people just sitting around and reading a script for a read-around.
I mean, we'd wear costumes and really get into it and stuff. You can put some music behind it.
It'd be fun. No,
I think Harry Truman weigh in from the wings or something.
I like
it. You guys are embarrassing me.
I thought about Nick Schroer's dual proposal. What is it? A resolution, I guess. And of course, it's tongue in cheek. But that proposal could as well have come from someone on the other side of the fence, right? I mean, in a tongue in cheek kind of way. Maybe that's the way we break down some of these now very tall, what appear to be personal walls between folks. Humor's a pretty good disinfectant sometimes. I mean, when people start laughing and yucking and they realize, maybe I need to look at the mirror and laugh a little bit at my own drama. I don't know.
Well, and, I said this earlier in the show, but that state politics are getting bad when the classic rock guys start asking you questions about what's going on.
Right?
Oh, that is so true.
And it was so funny to me because I was asking him, have you heard of what's been going on this week? He goes, no. So he missed out on all of that stuff.
All the fun stuff.
Yeah, but he heard about the duel thing. He was excited about that one.
Well, and I wonder, it's almost like, like a big kind of Wheel of Fortune wheel, and they wake up in the morning, and I was wondering, or maybe a bingo card of some sort, maybe we need to make one of right-wing insults. So we get swamp a lot, swamp creature, we get rhino, we get deep
deplorable.
state. Yeah.
I think the one you get Caleb Rowden involved that's going to come up on the wheel is going to be Miss a Turn.
Ooh, yeah. It's a tough call as to, I think people want to take sides just naturally. You want to be with the right side, the side that is the most authentic and seems to have the most integrity and the most truly factual information. But you also want to be on a winner.
Yeah, you do. Well, and I'm surprised we haven't honestly seen a resolution yet to ban this new practice to prevent more rhinos in our state.
Yeah.
I saw this news this week, and I thought,
is interesting.
This is something I bet everyone can get behind.
Yeah.
Have you seen what the Senate Democrats are now referring to the throwdown on the GOP side as? Simply calling it the Missouri Republican Civil War.
Oh, sheesh.
So, Stephanie, you sent me this story. The world's first IVF rhino pregnancy.
Yeah,
Rhino with an H, right?
Do you think the rest, the non-Freedom Caucus members, have started this movement towards rhinos?
More rhinos?
More rhinos? Is that what you're saying?
I'm shocked the Freedom Caucus again hasn't tried to ban IVFs for rhinos because they're convinced that there are way too many rhinos. But yeah, apparently IVF has been used before for like cattle, for horses, but this is the first time that it's ever been used for rhinos, and it worked. And so they're very, very excited and saying they can save the rhino.
Hannah has weighed in on AI for a long time, ever since she got her ag degree.
Well, I was going to say, I did a report in school. It was a very basic report, but they were looking at bringing back the woolly mammoth.
Yeah.
And basically they found, obviously, no surprise here, that an elephant was genetically similar to a woolly mammoth. And they had found a frozen and preserved, woolly mammoth carcass that they thought they could maybe still extract a little bit of DNA out of. And so they were going to combine that with some elephant genes to see if they could bring back the woolly mammoth. And I think that's kind of cool. But also, have you seen Jurassic Park?
There you go.
Yeah, that's a problem with Jurassic. Well, the
I'll go
Jurassic
south in a hurry.
Jurassic Park is the cloning equivalent of AI. I mean, is it going to go wild and absolutely ruin us? Maybe that doomsday clock we talked about yesterday will be, half a minute rather than 90 seconds.
But I follow a creator on TikTok, and she breeds quarter horses, and they do a lot of IVF, which I didn't know about prior to stumbling across her account. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Okay, let's take Jim real quick. Jim, you got 30 seconds. Go.
Hey, so for those that listen to the Eagle all day, you'll hear commercials for the Byrna, non-lethal tear gas gun.
Yes.
They need to bring that into the Senate duels.
Ah,
and whoever
okay.
recovers first wins.
Okay, yeah, that would be that or a taser or something. Okay, good. Non-lethal.
Super soakers.
Yeah, but that sort of waters it down. That's more capitulating to the snowflake mentality. I mean, let's real men do real duels after all. I mean, let's be honest about it. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
No, I think we're onto something here. John said water guns or super
I like
soakers.
that. Yeah, super soakers. Yeah.
I think
Nerf cannons.
There. Yeah.
I think one day on the floor of the Senate, everyone just needs to get a Nerf gun, okay? It's not going to hurt anyone seriously.
Yeah.
And they have at it and try to have fun with it.
You can't open a newspaper in the gallery in the Senate. They're not going to allow Nerf guns.
Thinking
there's all sorts of desks and things that they can hide behind. It'd be fun.
Thinking through this IVF thing, these days in IVF, often, almost routinely, they will then pluck off, as the embryo divides, they will pluck off one cell before it becomes differentiated. It's just a ball of cells. And they will do a genetic analysis on it. So you could not only make rhinos, but you could actually genetically Vintage top, very nice.
Thank you.
That's great because it is our wearing the red day.
We are remembering everyone deployed.
Producer Hannah
Hello.
wearing her red.
Yeah.
And I have my red on. John has his red on.
Yes, sir.
And hope that you all have your red on. And red is because, ladies?
To remember everyone deployed.
That's right. Remember everyone deployed. I always like to remind myself of the people that are left home when people are deployed, too, because, man, they're having to do an awful lot of... There's emotional toil and there's real work to be done, too.
Good point.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Joining us now, speaking of support of those who need it, the youth in our area certainly need it. Tanya Heath, who's an active person in community support activist in the area, and Julian Jackman join us now. Recently, there was a grand opening of a center to support the youth in our area. So they're joining us now, I think. I don't know. I thought they were.
Hey, Randy.
There's Tanya. I don't know what happened. Seems like we lost you, but you're back on. Welcome in.
Thank you for having me.
And Julian Jackman, welcome into the program.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So there was a big grand opening last week. Tell us what opened and who it serves.
Awesome. So Peace and Hope Center for Youth opened Wednesday, kind of like a soft opening. We wanted kind of the stakeholders of Columbia, the ones that we know that will be investing in our kiddos and sharing time and moments with them in this center to come and kind of check out what we have to offer for the kiddos in Columbia. So it was awesome to get, people from CPS and the city and different entities in Columbia to come and check out what we had to offer for our kiddos now in Columbia.
I was out there, Julian and Tanya. I appreciate Tanya, what you're doing, and Julian and Lonnie Lockhart Bay. I was out there. You saw me, and Nick Danger was there. Roy Lovelady, our 3rd Ward councilman here in Columbia, was there. There were business people there. There were it was a very diverse group of people who were there, and I'm working on a feature story for next week on it. But Julian, what stuck out to me more than anything else when I walked around that building was the attention to detail. It's the finest stuff you can find. Lonnie game room, finest furniture, glass tables, and your colleague. I asked him, Lonnie Lockhart Bay. I asked him about that, and he said these kids need to understand they deserve the best, but they have not always. They've not gotten that. These kids, it's not even safe for them in some cases to walk the streets and go home. I don't know that people realize what these kids are facing in that area and throughout Columbia.
A lot of people don't. And, it breaks my heart when I get to sit with a child and hear their story, and their story relates to mine so much. It's one of those things where we just want to make sure that they're safe, that they're properly being guided, and for them to know that someone will consistently be in their life. That's what we're trying to offer, and that's what we want to make sure that these kiddos understand is, we're in it for the long run. We're not going anywhere. And having a center will definitely, show and prove to them that we're here. We're here for the long stay. So that's another reason, too, why we want to make sure they understand that, a youth center is their center. It's not our center. It's for them, not us.
That's Julian Jackman with Peace. PEACE. What does that stand for? People Embracing Another Choice Effectively. And I'm on your Facebook page. There is a Facebook page that has some pictures of that youth center. Pretty impressive.
Julian, for those few folks out there who don't know you, maybe give us your backstory and your time behind bars and how that all kind of brought all this to fruition.
Oh, awesome. So, born and raised in Columbia, Missouri. I am a Rockbridge High School graduate. I love Columbia, man, and just, it's one of those things where, I grew up in a marginalized community. We didn't have the best of things, but we had things, it was our stuff. So grew up here in Columbia, made some very, very poor choices that did send me to prison. In prison, I learned some things about me. I found my purpose in prison. Love to facilitate and help men out, helping them with guidance and finding purpose in their life. And a lot of the programming that I was using was actually programming that I actually wrote. It was curriculum that I actually wrote and used when I did these classes. And I just want to bring that home and be able to share with these kiddos here in Columbia, because I just want to give back what I did not get, which was, mentoring, the facilitating, someone actually telling me, right from wrong, let me understanding consequences. So when I brought that back to Columbia, I didn't know the need for it. I didn't really truly understand the gravity of what the kiddos are actually going through until I got home, and it was like, wow, they really do need this. Let's get to it. But I wouldn't be able to do any of this without going through what I went through in life. So, I have people ask me all the time, would you do this over? No, I wouldn't do it over, because I wouldn't be the man that I am today if I didn't go through those trials and tribulations that I went through.
So when you look back and you see maybe in terms of your being equipped as a young person growing up, and maybe some gaps in that equipment, whether it was human leadership and guidance, whether it was material resource, we see the material resource at the Peace Center here, Peace and Hope Center for Youth. What kind of coaching, what kind of human support and staffing is going to help fill in whatever gaps may be in these kids' lives?
So we're definitely going to have a relationship with CPS to make sure that we're getting tutors in there, making sure that we're understanding the needs that the kiddos have. So when they're away from school, they're still furthering their education with us. We want to make this building at all times interactive learning. Anything they're doing, even if they're playing, there's going to be interactive learning. There's going to be times for us to really drop jewels on them and give them understanding of life. So a lot of the volunteers that we have are retired teachers. Some will be MU students. It's going to be a great opportunity for them to see all walks of life. We're going to keep it very diverse, because we think that if our kiddos can, see diversity and see unity, we can break down a lot of barriers that they have. So that's one reason why we want to be very diverse.
Julian, to Randy's point, Randy asked a great question, and what stuck out too was when I was over there, I saw some young people, and they're bringing tradespeople in too to teach them like how to do plumbing and things like that. Folks, you can make a good living at plumbing or electricians and stuff. What are you optimistic about that? Because you've got some volunteers, but the plumbing in the trades, what's the status of that? Because it sounded very optimistic when I was there.
No, it's very strong. It's just one of those things where we're to a point now that, a shake of hand is good, but we're looking for MOUs and partnerships. We want it on paper that you'll come in once a week or twice a week to work with our kids. And that's what we're lacking right now. But in fact, as we're talking, I actually have a contractor getting ready to go out to one of our contractors who is actually going to be able to come in and do a lot of this stuff. We're finishing up a contract, hopefully with Home Depot here in Columbia, Missouri. I got to finish up the paperwork on it. So it's very, very hopeful. It's definitely going to happen. But at that time when we were speaking of it, it was like, man, we don't know if these people are going to really come or not. But now that it's closer to the opening date, they're really on board to do it. It's just finishing up the last minute paperwork to make sure that they're coming and spending this time with our kiddos. And you're right. We're realistic. Not everybody's going to go to college. It's not going to happen. So we have people that will come in. They'll do career assessments. They'll show these kids what that means, kind of point them in a direction for a career. And then we're hoping that through workforce development, we can see if that's really their purpose of their love in life.
All right. We're talking with Julian Jackman. That was him, along with Tanya Heath, who's a community support champion of the area here. Tanya, I know you're a person of faith. You've led prayer walks in the past. Often it's not until people are in a foxhole that they start praying. These kids probably are in various foxholes, maybe of many colors, and I don't mean their skin color. I just mean different buckets of foxholes. What kind of faith, if any, is allowed based on the funding to this kind of an organization?
Well, I think, with all of our various speakers that are going to be coming in the evening and stuff, we're open to any speaker. We've got, like Julian said, the plumbers, but we also have the estheticians that, make you look beautiful. And certainly, if there's a pastor or something like that, wants to come and talk about his or her journey of faith, I think that what we're trying to do is just paint a picture of a positive future, that these kids may not know about. And when you see something that trigger something in your heart, then you can connect with that. And, my church, along with a lot of other churches, we pray regularly for all of these children. And I think that, what Julian and Lonnie are doing is that fruition. It's like, God, the story of, the God where he's trying to rescue someone in the ocean, and, God sends the boat and the guy's like, no. And then God sends the helicopter and the guy's like, no, I'm waiting for God, and it's like, God works through us. And so that is what we are trying to do. We are trying to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And I think that, there's so many people who want to make a difference and make Columbia better. And so through volunteering, whether it's, you can help with reading, you can help with math, or you can help, give a speech. And with Julian
Sure.
and Lonnie, they can, if you have 4 weeks and you want to come and speak for 4 weeks, do that. If you want to speak once a month for 4 months, do that.
Yeah.
There's plenty of time for everybody.
Certainly. Well, Julian, you talked a little bit about your interaction with the criminal justice system, but is there any effort then to, provide education about the system or develop a relationship with law enforcement?
Oh, most definitely. So we actually have the Columbia Police Department. We have some fire department people that will actually come through on a regular basis and see our kids and talk to them. When I was in school, we used to have the police cars come through. You could sit in the car and you turn on the lights and the sirens, and, the fire department would come and bring their trucks. We want to bring that back. We want to make sure that our kids are interacting with first responders and understand the great responsibility that they have of also keeping them safe. So another thing of breaking down barriers. Making sure that they are involved and understanding that they're here for their safety, not to hinder them in any way, but to actually help them along their life.
And, I think a lot of young people these days get the message that if their lot in life isn't like someone they see on social media or celebrities, that it's a zero-sum game, that they have less because someone else has more. And I hope that hey, let's grow a big pie so everyone gets a bigger piece rather than I have a smaller piece because you have a bigger piece. That's a huge message as well. Hey, thanks very much. We look forward to following.
closed at a record high yesterday for the 6th day in a row, and the markets are just breaking records like crazy. Now, yesterday we had kind of a weird day because we were at a record high, but some folks did not have a good day, like Tesla. So Tesla took a huge tumble, but the market's still looking pretty good this morning. Futures are in the red. But when you keep setting record highs, eventually you think it might settle down and go down. Well, I earlier this week I like to follow. Awesome. The Wall Street Journal website just went down. All right. I like to follow the number one story on the Wall Street Journal. I'm always interested, not only like what, and earlier this week it was on polyamory.
I know.
Which I thought, surely there's a business news story around here.
Yeah.
But we're back to mostly business news. And I'm not sure if it's technically a Feel Good Friday because I have a big debate about this. And you have adult kids, so maybe you want to weigh in. But at what point as a parent do you stop financially supporting your children?
Oof.
And I'm not to that stage yet, so I kind of have
neither.
that. I kind of have that I would never do that. They need to get along on their own. But it's the same thing when you're like a mother and you're like, I would never give my kid formula or a pacifier. And until you've been there, it's really hard to pass judgment. But a new study is out this week, and the results show that nearly 60% of parents are providing financial help to their adult kids. And the other crazy stat is adults under the age of 25, 57% live with their parents.
What?
Up from 53%.
Say that again?
So adults under the age of 25, so young adults.
Yeah.
Don't look at me, Randy.
But out of school.
Out of school, almost 60% live with their parents, and that's up significantly from 1993. And and they're saying, housing's super expensive, so why not? And you've got student loans and other things. Why not live at home? But how do you become a young adult if you're still living with your parents?
Yes. Our philosophy was, and we told the kids early, that I worked extra jobs so that we could pay their schooling. Now, schooling was cheaper then. I mean, last one graduated, 8 years ago, I guess, 7, 8 years ago. Okay. But we told them, we're going to equip you. That's what we're going to do. And after that, you're on your own. Now, do we buy a plane ticket for Shannon to get back from North Carolina? Do we do something? Because we're so blessed. My daughters are involved in our medical business, right? And they help us, It's not a scheduled thing, but they just throw in and help us. So, I don't know. We just have such a great relationship. But in terms of any major material support, nope. Don't do it.
My parents helped us early on when we were
nominations, and you're welcome to join in on that at 573-874-9390. Stephanie, do you have winners and losers for today?
I mean, do we have to say it that the people of Missouri are the big loser this week with the stalemate? Again,
Bill Eigel for losing his parking spot, I guess.
Yeah, in some ways, I kind of like the fact that we're not, charging out there and doing a lot of legislation. But I would say, a functioning Senate is something I think that benefits us. And sometimes that functioning means killing bills. But at least we get to talk about the topics, which we aren't getting to talk about now.
You did say killing bills as in legislation.
Yeah.
Okay, let's make sure that we got that clear. Yeah, maybe the Democrats think they're the biggest winners as they watch all of this.
Oh,
yeah?
I think they do.
Yeah,
and
they do.
And they've been pouring over. You can see people have been posting all of the fundraising emails they're sending out about the Chaos Caucus. So they are, if the Freedom Caucus is doing one thing, it's generating quite a bit of money and fodder for the Democrats to fundraise. And that is not great.
And Stephanie, you know this better than anyone. You really keep a close eye on it. If you didn't know, not you, but if people didn't know any better, remember, Republicans have supermajorities in both chambers. I swear to God, the Mo-Ledge Twitter is it's nothing but progressives all day trolling, basically, the conservative lawmakers and stuff. And they're very active, but you'd never think the Republicans have a supermajority. They're on there all day long.
Because they're not working in the field or in their job. They're just sitting on Twitter. And beyond just like being obviously dominated by progressives on Twitter of just people, keyboard warriors. The other thing that's been dominating the Mo-Ledge Twitter as of especially the last couple of weeks has been people who aren't in Missouri, people who are in D.C. And they think they know about what's going on in Missouri and they feel like they want to comment on it. And I wish they would all go away.
Brian, winners and losers?
I'll go last. I've got several. I'll defer.
We may run out of time.
Yeah, mine will be short.
You sure?
Yes.
John, winners and losers of the week.
I've got a couple. How about a winner? Aaron Griffrath, the new Jefferson City Parks and Rec director. Aaron's been the interim director and kind of running the show over there since August when former director Todd Spaulding, after he'd been on leave and was allowed to resign in September. Folks remember Aaron's years at State Technical College, and he worked over at the YMCA in Jefferson City for a while. I guess we'll call this one a loser. Why don't we say the Lincoln University family? Because they've had a rough couple of weeks with the death of Vice President Bonnie Candia Bailey, who took her own life, and then the Board of Curators bringing in a law firm to review personnel, and President John Mosley on leave. So I think that's kind of a loser thing for the whole family over there. Bad press for Lincoln U.
And Senator Carla May from St. Louis calling for legislative hearings into that. That's pretty serious.
Cecilia says, nominate the Cole County Road District for excellence in the ice storm. Winners of the week. I think we could talk about all of the road crews. Yeah, It's been busy time for them the last few weeks. Hannah, do you have winner and loser nominees for the week?
I do have a winner and loser that kind of go tandem with each other. So the Centralia SMART program, SMART standing for Students and Mentors Achieving Responsibility Together. They are an after-school program for students in Centralia, and it's for the students that maybe are having a hard time in school or maybe need something after school to keep them out of trouble. Maybe they don't have the best home life. This program, the community has really rallied around over the last almost 10 years. Local businesses have volunteered to teach the students, new skills, new services. They've learned all sorts of soft skills. They've gotten to do a lot of really cool things in the community. They've started, their own little businesses.
Oh, wow.
We've had them here in the Zimmer building doing a tour, and they showed us a book that they published. They're doing a lot of really cool things, but unfortunately, my loser in this, Desi has stepped in.
No.
And unfortunately, Desi has determined that the SMART program cannot continue unless they get licensed. And the SMART program has put on their Facebook page that that's just not a feasible option for them. And so they will be disbanding the SMART program.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
We have to look into this and do more digging into this.
If Senator Carla Essingler, and I guarantee you she usually listens, even in Wasola, if she just heard that, what Hannah just said, I have a feeling that may be reversed. Wow.
Yeah, so it was determined they have to be licensed, and I don't know what that process entails, but they said that that's just not a feasible option for them.
Whoever made that decision, look in the mirror. Whoever made that decision, look in the mirror and say two things. Yes, the current law says that I must do that. And then say this. I am going to march to Senate or Representative.
It's Senator Carla Esslinger.
I am going to call Senator Carla Esslinger's office today and get what I am bound to do changed. I don't begrudge bureaucrats being bureaucrats. What I do begrudge is when they know, I'll say it 10 times, they know it's just flat wrong. Change it. Get it changed. All right.
Wow. They've been renting a building in Centralia that's across the street from the middle school to house this program. So they have their own little space. They've learned,
wow.
They've learned cooking skills, sewing skills. Unfortunately, some of these kids have to be independent at home without a, reliable adult.
All right, wake up, fam, do your thing.
These are the kind of factoids that spawn the Tea Party movement, that spawn and continue to drive the MAGA movement. People have had it with insanity and bureaucracy, from what we know. From what we know.
I posted a screenshot of the Smart Programs announcement on their Facebook page to my personal Twitter account. That's producer_Hannah. You might have to scroll through some of the Freedom Caucus stuff, but it is there, and I tagged Desi in it. I haven't heard a peep back, but it is there on my personal Twitter if you want to take a look. I might see if I can get something up on the Wake Up Midmo Facebook page.
If that story isn't an argument for education choice, I don't know what is.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Representative Cherie Tolson-Reich represents Centralia, and I'm sure she'll, knowing her, she's probably on the phone right now.
My buns are frosted, and I haven't even listened to Gary Nolan yet coming up here at 9.
Well, we just had the governor on with us talking about how under his tenure, regulation from state government has gone away in some areas. Sounds like some work could stand.
Yeah, we got some work to do. Brian?
Stephanie, have you gone yet?
I think I said a loser. I don't think I said a winner, but based on what John just said, I will say winner of the week, the governor with the state of the state.
Huge.
Getting to do a victory lap and tell his story and just even, I had forgotten some, the monumental accomplishments that have happened over the last several years. And so and nice that he could kind of bring, it was a moment of unity and love in a week that was really tumultuous.
Let's not forget, 3 major tax cuts, all of the other things, the jobs environment was positive and favorable, the infrastructure. Let's not forget that despite all of the harping, whether you're on the Freedom Caucus's side or the Rowden O'Loughlin side or you're not taking a side, the legislature is involved in that. They did get big things done.
Huge.
Yes, so it was a good reminder. So winner of the week, the governor.
Governor Parson, huge state of the state. I've got 4 quick winners. 4 quick winners, and in no particular order here.
Happy Pants Hauswirth over here.
The Okay, that's my new nickname, I guess.
There it is. Happy Pants.
You usually reference Speedos. Okay, so the Candy Factory in Columbia celebrating their 50th anniversary.
Oh, wow.
The Candy Factory. They were started by a woman named Dorothy Lundgren, and her husband's name was Earl. I remember they used to be on Walnut, as I recall, but they're celebrating 50 years. Congratulations to them. Number 2, KWOS, celebrating its 87th birthday on Tuesday. Many people John's work with, Johnny
Marsh
Music.
was a charter member.
He was there. Their studio.
Radio by candlelight.
He got his Heath kit going there.
Their actual first studio was at the top of the Capitol building up there and literally way at the top. So that's amazing. 87 years. I'll talk more about that next week. Number 3, Walmart had a wellness day last week, and I had some issues with my, I was a little dehydrated, but Peyton and Noah, they took really good care of me when they were doing some blood work. I really appreciate their patience. Thank you for that. And last but not least, our listeners of the Monday Ice Storm. Those are probably the hardest things. Stephanie knows I was a little stressed because the phone was going crazy, the scanner.
A little.
Yeah, I was. Well, it was crazy. School closings, wrecks, everything. A guy got literally hit by a tractor trailer in Kingdom City. So our listeners for that. And Marina Diaz of Channel 17. Marina's been on our show, Randy. She talked openly about her lisp, and she's tried to overcome that. She was told by one person years ago at her I think in college, you're never going to make it in TV. She's an anchor now. She reported live at the scene of that horrible wreck, and I told her coverage was phenomenal. We got better stuff from Marina than we did from the police. So Marina, it's I've said Diaz. It's actually Diaz. She reminded me it's Marina Diaz from our news partner. She's a winner along with our listeners too. What a crazy day that was.
Have you named any losers?
Happy Pants Hauswirth does not like to pick losers.
Yeah, I'll give one. I'll be politically correct, but the weather, it has just been awful. I feel like at least these last couple of days I haven't had to do it, but for a while there, almost every day I was calling the National Weather Service in St. Louis 3-4 times a day because we had so much going on. Luckily, we're out of that, but we definitely need some sunshine, no doubt. So the loser of the week would be the weather.
Okay, loser of the week. Well, my winner and the loser of the week both are with LabCorp customer service. They have you have to, when you get blood drawn, if it's not in-house blood work and it goes to one of these major labs, they do a pickup. You've seen the little boxes hanging on the door, the lock boxes. Well, for some reason, LabCorp at our place doesn't pick up after 3 o'clock routinely, allegedly. I don't know. And so we had a problem. It got a little late. So I called San Diego. The number on the LabCorp, you call someone in well, I'm in San Diego. That's not the Midwest. I said, I'm calling the customer service number. Can you do? And they will make an exception, and they will. The guy told me the other night that they were going to pick it up. I put the blood work in. We had to stick a person for blood and got a urine sample, routine, put it in the box. He assured me that it would be, I'm going to make an exception. We'll get it done. You know, the couriers, I know they don't pick it up at 3 o'clock. That's the last time you can make a request. I went out the next morning, blood's still in the box. Ooh. Now that person's going to have to be stuck. This was I can't help to say it, this was a California worker. So yesterday I railed about that, talked to the same office. They gave me the Midwest office. No, they gave me the Arizona, Texas office, who finally gave me the Midwest office. The Midwest office person is the winner. They got it fixed. They said, you're supposed to have a local rep. I said, I didn't know that.
That's terrible.
We need to keep hammering customer service. Finally, LabCorp got it right, okay, to their credit. But this person's going to have to get stuck again. There's too many people in customer service who are losers, multiple, myriad losers, who don't give a rat's Brazilian butt wax end about it.
Wow. It's better than Happy Pants Hauswirth.
And I'm sorry. And kudos to all of the customer service reps, and there are a myriad of them who do give a rat's butt about it. And thank you for that. But make sure that you show gratitude to those winners when you do get good customer service, and hammer on the companies and those customer service winners when you don't, or losers when you don't. That's it for the winners and losers. Okay, when we come back, leftovers. John, at some of the great things that they're doing at Centralia, the fun. It reminds me a little bit in one way about the Junior Achievement Program, where kids are making products, selling them, and then doing some charity work with them.
Wow, JA, haven't thought about that in a week or two.
Yeah, well, it goes back to my thermos days. For those of you that are just joining us, you can check on the Facebook page. Did you put the picture up on our Facebook page, right?
I did. I said we are a multi-generational radio show.
I brought my Stanley thermos from God knows how far back. I have. This may have been my grandpa on my mom's side.
We had a caller say that you could check the date on the bottom.
I kept looking for it.
But there's all sorts of stuff engraved on the bottom. We couldn't find a date.
Yeah. And I remember going out to the hunting stand with this with some soup in it. It's nice.
Yeah, and Tim Tinnin mentioned it rolling around in his truck, and I can hear that sound in my dad's work truck. I know he had one of those.
These things are indestructible. I mean, now remember, John, you shared a picture among our group with the old. You had like a lunchbox, the old metal lunchbox.
Yeah, I sent Randy a picture of my grade school with the matching thermos John Glenn lunchbox.
And I remember my heart was broken more than once as a youngster when the little thermos inside of those it was glass.
Yeah, they were glass.
They were glass. It didn't take much to break them. And no, that's not ice in your Kool-Aid. That's glass. So they stopped that then at some point. Stephanie, there was a story about an airline that got grounded because of an episode. Do you want to share that?
Apparently there was a man who was aggressively farting on a plane, and people took issue with it. And then he stood up for himself and basically said, "You think that's bad? Watch this." And then he gets kicked off, I guess.
He let it rip more?
But, I mean, we've seen worse. And somebody pointed out, farting is not the worst offense on a plane, apparently, but in this
unless
instance,
it's a pit bull sitting at your feet, right?
Exactly. I mean, we've seen all sorts of weird behaviors on airlines, and people have just lost their minds. But this man was apparently proudly and aggressively cutting the cheese, and the other passengers did not appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I think they took him off the plane. The plane was delayed, and then they eventually got home.
Yeah. So avoid your high-fiber cereals before you embark on a long plane ride.
I told you that story that I sat in COU and watched two full-grown adults eat like a mountain of Taco Bell right before they got on the plane, and I was like, that would have not been my choice.
Well, you had that story you've told us before about the infamous pit bull who wasn't quite behaving either.
Oh yeah, no, I got kicked out of my seat for the pit bull.
Yeah,
and it was, he must have been an 80, 90-pound dog.
Mia, our pit bull boxer mix, has a real penchant for when she's mad because we show too much affection to Simba, the wonder dog, who we think's partly blind. He runs into doors occasionally. She can control it pretty well, and she'll let us know when she's unhappy. A listener, Sandy, going back to Winners and Losers, said the people from Relaxium need to be losers. She has trouble sleeping. They would take Visa and MasterCard.